You spend your life trying to be liked by friends, by coworkers, by strangers who scroll past your posts. You measure your worth by their smiles, their praise, their approval, but somehow you always end up feeling hollow. Here's the truth. The more you chase being liked, the more you disappear. Your choices bend around other people's expectations. You say yes when you want to say no. You act kind when you feel bitter. You push yourself to achieve, not because it matters to you, but because someone else might clap for it. You become a version of yourself you can't even recognize. And yet, you keep doing it. Because somewhere along the way, you were told that being liked is the same thing as being good. You weren't told that every smile you chase comes with a price. Your freedom. People rarely stop to ask why they care so much about being liked. It just feels automatic, like breathing. But it isn't. It's a decision. One you were trained to make. One you can unlearn. There's a quiet truth most won't say out loud. Some people will never like you. No matter how kind, smart, generous, or successful you are, you could twist yourself into something unrecognizable and still not earn their approval. So the question isn't whether you'll be liked. The question is whether that even matters, because at some point, trying to please everyone becomes the most dangerous form of self-abandonment. If that idea makes your chest tighten, good. It means you're waking up. Keep going. The ideas in this video come from The Courage to be Disliked, a quiet but powerful book written by Ichiro Kashimi, a philosopher, and Fumitake Koga, a writer. Their work distills the psychology of Alfred Adler, one of the three giants of modern psychology alongside Freud and Jung. But unlike them, Adler focused less on the past and more on the choices we make in the present. His message was simple but unsettling. Your life is yours to shape, no matter your history. And the biggest thing standing in your way is your need for approval. Kashimi and Koga explain that most people live according to someone else's script. We shape our behavior around being accepted, praised, or seen as good. But doing so locks us into patterns that feel safe on the surface and quietly eat us alive underneath. Their argument is clear. True happiness isn't found in being liked. It's found in the courage to live freely, even if that means being disliked. You can't be both free and constantly approved of. One has to go. They don't make this claim lightly. They spend the book peeling back layer after layer of how we lie to ourselves, chase validation, and trap ourselves in emotional cages. All because we're too scared to step outside the approval of others. But they also offer a way out. It's not easy. It requires you to stop blaming your past, to stop waiting for permission, and to stop pretending that the world owes you comfort for good behavior. Their promise is blunt. If you want to be happy, you'll have to risk being disliked. And if you're brave enough to do that, your life will no longer belong to anyone but you. In Adlerian psychology, your lifestyle isn't about fashion or routine. It's the deep structure of how you interpret life, your habits, beliefs, and emotional reflexes. It's the story you've written about how the world works and what you must do to survive in it. Most people don't realize they're living out a script they quietly wrote years ago. And they keep playing the same role, even when it hurts. Adler also introduces the idea of goal-driven emotion. This flips everything most people believe about feelings. We don't feel things first and act second. According to Adler, we decide, often unconsciously, what we want to avoid or pursue. And then our emotions line up to support that decision. Fear, sadness, anger, they're not random. They serve a purpose. They help us dodge risk or escape effort. Someone who avoids job interviews might say they're paralyzed by anxiety, but Adler would say the anxiety is a tool, created to serve a deeper goal, avoiding rejection. The fear didn't cause the avoidance. The avoidance caused the fear. Then there's community feeling. Adler saw this as essential for a meaningful life. It means recognizing that you're part of something larger than yourself and finding a place in it where you can contribute, not compete. When you lack this, you measure your worth through comparisons, status, praise. But when you have it, you stop needing validation. You find peace in knowing you matter simply because you exist and because you choose to serve. These three ideas, lifestyle, goal-driven emotion, and community feeling, are the pillars of Adler's psychology. And they shape everything that follows. Because if your emotions are chosen, your life script is flexible, and your value isn't up for debate, then you're far less trapped than you think. Think about a job interview. Most people say they're nervous because the stakes are high. But Adler's view is different. If someone feels overwhelmed by fear and doesn't show up, it's not just anxiety. They've already decided not to go. The emotion came after the decision. The fear is a shield, protecting them from the risk of failure. It gives them an out. It says, I didn't fail because I'm not good enough. I failed because I was too anxious to try. Now think about childhood trauma. It's real. It leaves marks. But Adler doesn't believe it defines you. Two people can grow up in the same painful environment. One repeats the damage, the other breaks the cycle. What's the difference? It's the meaning each one gives to their past. One sees themselves as permanently damaged. The other decides that their pain is fuel to live differently. Adler's message isn't that trauma doesn't matter. It's that you are the one who gives it power. And that means you can take that power back. Then there's comparison. Social media makes it worse, but it didn't start there. Most of us grew up being graded, ranked, or sized up. You see a peer succeed, and instead of feeling inspired, you feel small. Not because their success harmed you, but because you've been trained to measure yourself against others. You feel behind. You feel unseen. Adler's answer? Stop seeing life as a contest. You don't need to win to be valuable. Someone else's joy is not your loss. But that shift only comes when you stop needing others to validate your worth. And that starts by choosing a different goal. One of the most deeply held beliefs people carry is that trauma locks them into a fixed identity. I am this way because of what happened to me. It sounds reasonable, it even feels honest. But Adler and later Kashimi and Koga push back hard against that. They argue that no experience, not even the worst one, forces you to act a certain way. You're not shaped by the event itself. You're shaped by the meaning you assign to it. That doesn't mean pain is imagined. It means pain doesn't decide your future, you do. Another myth is that praise is good for us, that it builds confidence, self-worth, and motivation. But Adler saw praise as just another form of control. When someone praises you, they're telling you that your value is measured by how well you match their standards. And the more you seek that praise, the more you live by someone else's yardstick. You stop asking, what do I want? And start asking, what do they want from me? You become dependent on approval, and as soon as the praise stops, so does your sense of worth. Both of these myths about trauma and praise are comforting in a way. They let you off the hook. They say, you don't have to change, it's not your fault. And that's the trap. Because once you accept them, you stop seeing choice. And if you believe you have no choice, you stop looking for one. That's the real danger. Not the trauma itself, but the belief that it defines you forever. Not the praise itself, but the idea that without it, you're nothing. The unhappy person lives in reaction. Their days are shaped by what others think, or what they imagine others think. Every choice is filtered through the question, will this make me look good? They say yes when they want to say no. They apologize for things they didn't do. They hold back opinions, hide their desires, and replay conversations in their head to check if they came across the right way. Their internal dialogue is full of anxiety. Did I offend them? Did I look weak? Did I mess up? They don't really live, they perform. And every performance drains them a little more. The happy person lives in alignment. They act from within, not in response. They still care, but they don't depend. They have opinions without needing them validated. They help others without needing applause. They're not rude or rebellious, they're clear. Their internal voice is quieter, less frantic. This is what matters to me. This is what I choose. This is who I am, even if no one claps. They aren't fearless, but they're no longer paralyzed by the fear of rejection. And that difference between reacting and choosing is what changes everything. Unhappy people are constantly stuck in imaginary negotiations. They trade their time, energy, and authenticity for a shot at being liked. And even when they succeed, it never lasts. Because it wasn't real. Happy people don't make those trades. They might be misunderstood. They might be disliked. But they get to live with themselves. Fully, and that's a price they're willing to pay. When approval becomes your compass, relationships turn into transactions. You give affection, favors, even sacrifice, but always with a quiet ledger in your head. If I do this, they'll like me. If they like me, I'll matter. But that kind of giving isn't love. It's negotiation. And when you don't get back what you expect, when they don't thank you, notice you, return the effort, it turns into resentment. That's the trap. You weren't doing it for them. You were doing it for the version of yourself you hoped they'd reflect back. And when they don't, it feels personal. It feels like rejection. So you try harder. You give more. You bend further. Until you quietly hate them for never seeing you, and hate yourself for needing them to. It gets worse in close relationships. A partner, a friend, a sibling. When approval is your goal, their love starts to feel like a test you have to keep passing. And the moment they pull back or praise someone else, you feel threatened. Not because they've hurt you, but because you've tied your identity to their reaction. Adler called this the loss of community feeling. Instead of connection, you get control. Instead of shared trust, you get silent competition. Instead of joy, you get tension. People don't feel safe around someone who's always performing. They feel used, and eventually so do you. Letting go of approval doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop depending. It means you show up honestly, even if that means being misunderstood. That's the only way a real connection survives, when it's not built on the need to be liked, but the courage to be known. There's a different way to live. It doesn't start with trying to be impressive. It starts with asking, where can I be useful? This is the shift Adler, Kashimi, and Koga speak about. The moment when life stops being a stage and starts becoming a place to serve. Contribution isn't about sacrificing yourself for others. It's about realizing that your existence already matters and leaning into that with intent. Happy people don't need recognition to feel valuable. They build meaning through contribution, whether or not anyone notices. They cook a meal, they listen deeply, they show up when it's inconvenient. Not because it earns them praise, but because it aligns with who they've chosen to be. They define usefulness on their own terms. Maybe that means raising a child, supporting a friend, building something quietly behind the scenes. Maybe it just means being kind in a world that's forgotten how. When you stop chasing recognition, you start building something stronger, a life that feels real. You find your place in the human web, not above, not below, but beside others. You stop asking, do they see me? And start asking, how can I give something that lasts? That question changes the entire shape of your day. And the best part? When you focus on contribution, approval becomes irrelevant. You're not living to be seen. You're living to serve, to connect, to matter on your own terms. You carry a quiet confidence. I'm of use to someone. And that's enough. Because real peace isn't found in applause. It's found in the moments where you forget yourself completely and become part of something larger. Most people live in a loop, chasing some future moment when they'll finally be happy. A better job, a bigger house, more respect, more love. But every time they reach one finish line, another appears. The goalposts move. The emptiness stays. Kishimi and Koga call this the illusion of arrival, the lie that happiness exists somewhere other than here. Adler's answer is blunt. Happiness is now or not at all. It doesn't come later. It's not hiding behind a future achievement. It shows up in the quiet decisions you make today, choosing to speak honestly, choosing to forgive, choosing to help someone when it's inconvenient. These aren't grand gestures, they're small moments, easy to overlook, but they build a life that feels real. The present moment is the only thing you can actually live in. The past is gone. The future isn't promised, and while most people know this, they don't live like it. They wait for permission. They wait for recognition. They wait for the fear to go away before they act. But that wait has no end, because fear doesn't vanish. It only fades when you move through it. People who choose happiness now aren't ignoring their problems. They just understand that waiting to feel good about life is a trap. So they find meaning in the everyday. They stop measuring happiness in milestones. They measure it in awareness, in presence, in showing up fully for this one ordinary moment, without needing it to be anything else. Ask yourself one question. Who are you trying to impress? Not just today, every day. Whose approval are you quietly chasing? Whose voice are you still carrying in your head? And what part of yourself have you silenced just to keep being liked? Now ask this. What would change if you stopped? If you no longer needed to be admired, validated, or understood, what would you say no to? What would you finally say yes to? What parts of your life would fall away? Which parts would begin? You don't need anyone's permission to live your own way. You don't need to earn your worth. You don't need to be exceptional to matter. You were born enough. The only thing keeping you from peace is the belief that someone else gets to decide when you're allowed to feel it. Let go of that belief. Not slowly, not someday. Now let go of the need to be approved of. Let go of the fear of being disliked, because once that fear dies, freedom takes its place. Live a life that would still make sense even if no one ever clapped for it. Live a life that feels right when no one's watching. You don't owe the world a performance. You owe yourself a life.